Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Shane. We're back on an episode of the Dating for Late Bloomers podcast. I'm here with Daniel as well.
Hey guys, what's up? How you doing? Hope you're well. Back at it with more, insightful information about dating.
Yeah. So today we want to talk about just a very common subject. It's something that's we all have to deal with. We all have to, unfortunately, go through. Men, women, everybody, young, old, doesn't matter. We want to talk about rejection today. So it can be a tough thing, and this can apply not just to dating, but to friendships or I guess even family, your career. Like you get rejected for a job or a promotion or something. It really it goes it falls everywhere, and so we need to be able to hopefully know how to cope and try to get, well, for lack of a better phrase, get thicker skin and just know how to deal with it. So because you can't really avoid it. It's going to happen. So
pretty much.
So we have basically 5 ways to kind of just handle it and move forward. So Daniel, if you don't mind, we can dive into the first one.
Yeah, so the first one is reflect and accept.
Yeah, so just basically just honestly just accepting what's happening and what happened. Yeah, Daniel, do you expand on that?
Yeah, I think what makes rejection harder than it should be is the fact that we can't get over the idea that it happens to everyone. So as soon as we understand it and we really grasp that idea that rejection is normal, so if we make that idea conscious and we think, oh, this is not just me, it's not just a problem that I have, but it happens to everybody, I think we release a lot of the pressure that we feel when we get rejected. So just understand it, that it's part of life. Rejection is part of life. We accept it. We accept rejection and we reflect on how this is not just my problem, but it's everybody's problem. And so if we do that constantly and we remind ourselves that it's normal, it's part of life, like I keep saying, then we'll just be making rejection feel less of a burden and it'll be easier to deal with it.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what I said, like as an example, in the terms of dating, and let's say a man approaches a woman and he tries to talk to her, maybe he her out, gets her number or whatever, and let's just say she politely says no, I'm not interested, or I have a boyfriend or whatever. That's a rejection. Yeah, it might suck a little bit, but over time, if that happens again and again and again, it doesn't hurt as much, or at least it shouldn't hurt as much. I mean, if it does still kind of really hurt or hurts more, then that's a sign that there's something else going on, either that you're doing wrong with these asking women out in my example, or that there's some internal core issue that you need to work on. That because again, we've talked about this before, about how validation should not come from outside, it should come from within. And it may seem cliche, and I kind of hate cliches sometimes, but you have to love yourself before someone can love you. You have to be okay with yourself. And if you are okay with yourself, these rejections are they're not gonna knock you down. They're just like a fly on the windshield. Like okay, it's there, but you just wipe it away and keep driving forward. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, it shouldn't be a problem. And like Shane was talking about, if we look at if we look at relationships and how some women reject us, or vice versa, right? Sometimes men reject women too. So
Yes.
you don't know that other person. You just met that person. And so how can you even make a final judgment of what is going through their head or what their situation is? Sometimes people reject us because they are really like they're doing with other they are dealing with other things. They're maybe busy with their lives. They're maybe dating somebody else already. So you don't know them. You don't know what's happening. And so just don't beat yourself over, the rejection so much. Instead, accept the fact that you don't know that other person's situation, and just focus on, liking yourself, being um, good to yourself, and accepting and reflecting on these things. And like I said before, if you just um, realize that rejection happens to everybody, this shouldn't be, a problem.
I'm glad you said that because you just don't know what someone, they could have just had the worst day at work. They could have just gotten laid off. Maybe their father or partner just had a heart attack or something. There's all kinds of things that could be going on. Good example, literally just today, I messaged a friend, like, I don't know, a week or so, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And they didn't get back to me. I invited them to some, like, kind of like a little party thing, and never heard back from them. I didn't follow up or anything. I was like, well, it's fine, not a big deal. And then today I wrote them for something else. I asked them a different, like, something else was going on. And they said, oh, hey, I'm so sorry. I didn't write you back. I've been traveling and things have been so chaotic. Um, we're recording this right now during kind of holiday season. And she was very apologetic about it. I'm like, hey, no worries. It's not a big deal. So it wasn't a rejection. It's just she had 8,000 other things going on at the exact time that I messaged her the first time. It wasn't personal. It wasn't malicious. So it's hard to forget that sometimes. I'm working on that myself. I'm a lot better than I was, say, 15 years ago. But that's something that's a good example. I feel like that, just good real life example.
Yeah.
And that,
Once,
go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry, I interrupted,
No, go
Shane.
ahead.
But once I heard that the more we take rejection personal, the more selfish we are, the more of a
Mm,
very arrogant personality we tend to have, because we're like so selfish, and we're just focused on ourselves without thinking about the other person and all the other situations they may be dealing with. So, and
that is
because
very true.
you, right, and because you're making these judgments, I mean, these are negative judgments that you're making towards yourself, and that's not healthy. They are just harming you. And so, uh, yeah, don't be so selfish, and don't be so self-centered to think that the world revolves around you. Just accept. I think this is why we talk about this. You have to reflect on that. Reflect on, why is rejection so hard on yourself? Uh, because if it is, then there is a problem there, and it's perhaps because you're too selfish, and always thinking about yourself only.
Yeah, that kind of. Oh yeah, that's, man, that's deep. So true though. So true. That kind of, I believe that leads us into our second point. Daniel, if you don't mind reading our next one, and we have little
Yeah.
descriptions for them as well. We
So
can kind of go.
this is definitely what this is talking about here. It says maintain perspective.
We had some notes with that, didn't we? That we wrote down.
Yeah, yeah. So it says remember that rejection often says more about compatibility than personal worth. It's an opportunity to find someone who aligns better with your values and interests.
Yeah, so that kind of, everybody, that kind of goes back to what Daniel said a few minutes ago about how, in kind of in my example, if you met somebody at a party or a singles event or the grocery store and you talk to them for, let's say, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and they turn you down for whatever reason, I mean, think about it. They don't know you that well. They hardly even know you at all. They might know, like, your name and some basic facts. So it's more about the situation, how they're feeling, what's going on, maybe some superficial things. It doesn't mean that you're unworthy or not a good person or whatever. It just means that it just was not the right time and or it was not a good fit, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah. Don't take it personal. Move on and just remember that not everybody is supposed to be your perfect match. You know, it only takes one. Yeah, it only takes one, guys. So there's so many people in this planet, and you are, worrying about just one person. Just move on. There is other people out there that will, be even better for you. But you have to be willing to go through the rejections before you find that one person. And that is hard. Nobody wants to be rejected. But rejection is part of life. So
and kind of as a bonus here, just give yourself some compassion as well that this does happen, but also in terms of like dating and what you said. Yeah, we've all heard the whole plenty of fish in the sea, but it's true. I mean, if you want to get down to the actual like numbers, how many? I mean, there are exceptions. There are some people who maybe marry their high school sweetheart and are still married for 40 years later. But I think a lot of people, they have to go through a lot of relationships and even just going on a lot of first and second dates or talking to people, especially with the nowadays with dating apps and dating websites and stuff, or just going to singles events and stuff like that.
yep.
You're not alone. It's not just you. Daniel and I have been there too. Everybody's been, women, men, doesn't matter. So sometimes you have to go, as they say, kiss a lot of frogs to find your prince or princess.
Yep. Yep.
I have a female friend. She's been on this dating journey for the last almost 2 years now, and yeah, she's had some mild success, but she's had a lot of ups and downs. She's had some heartbreak. She's had a lot of BS. She's had a lot of you can even say some scary moments just with bad people, I guess you could say. But currently, she's with a pretty decent guy, and things are going pretty well. So she just had to, like I said, go through that ups and downs and keep resilient. And yeah, that's the key. And I've been the same. Went through a lot of first and second dates until I found like a really long-term relationship. This was a few years ago, but you have to give that time. Give it time.
Yeah, if there is anything yet I would suggest is go through the rejections faster. Don't linger, in a relationship that is not actually healthy. That if you don't see that the other person is cooperating or helping you, make the relationship happen, then don't push it. Just move on. You can tell when you have that chemistry. I can tell if there is chemistry within the first 5 to 10 minutes in an interaction. So and this is something that I've recently started doing. If I don't connect or don't have that chemistry within those 10 minutes in a conversation, then I'm like, okay, this is not a match for me, and I'll just be like, hey, nice talking to you, see you around, and I eject, I leave the interaction, and I go find somebody else to talk to that might be a better match, right? So, but that's me. That's me. I'm at a point in my life where I know what works for me, and so I just move through the interactions faster. And if I sense that the other person is not as invested as I am or not as interested, then I'm like, I take it as a rejection. I'm like, okay, she's not interested. That's cool, because rejection is it's normal. I'll just go meet someone else.
I definitely agree with that last part. If someone is pulling away, they're not putting in the effort they should be putting in.
Yep.
You
can tell. You can tell in any in interaction. You can tell if I'm asking the questions and she's not asking anything back. I know that she doesn't want to invest in the interaction. So why would I keep pushing it? You know,
Yeah.
it needs to be that this, dichotomy of, okay, I give you a little bit, that you give back. And see, that's how you can usually tell if a person is, a good match for you or not.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I do want to. I disagree with you a little bit though, in the sense of the overall, like let's say on a first date, if even though the first date might not be the most spectacular best date you've ever had, doesn't mean you shouldn't see the person. You know, I've had a lot of okay first dates that turn into many more dates and or relationships. Now, like I said, that maybe that's just me, but I'm talking to everybody out there, men and women. Don't write someone off unless they're just complete no match or like they do something really terrible or something that's different. But like, you know, you're watching the shows like The Bachelor or like movies and TV kind of paint this picture for us, that it should be a certain way. It's like it's not always a certain way. Like, you know what I mean? Just really give people most people are worth a second date unless, like I said, there's just nothing there. Literally nothing there. A second date is because you just never know. Because you have to keep in mind they might be nervous, you might be nervous. You're kind of you're I mean you're kind of the first date's kind of almost like an interview in a way. Like you're basically just I think it's more of a pass fail. Just see if you get along, like kind of like what Daniel said. See if you get along. If you can have if the conversation is awkward, then yeah, it's probably not a good match. But um, you're not going to get married on the first date. You're not going to go on a trip or something. You're just trying to get to know each other and just see if you guys can get along. Is there some attraction? If there is, just basic things. Have a second date, and then so on and so forth. So hope that makes sense. That's my opinion. I mean, you do you, but I think a lot of people don't give people a chance based on one little thing or maybe a little too superficial. But that's just kind of my opinion, I guess. So,
Yeah.
all right, Daniel, my man, can we do this? Let's go to number 3 here.
3 is stay positive. It says focus on your positive qualities and experiences. Keep in mind that rejection doesn't define you, and there are plenty of opportunities for meaningful connections.
Yeah, and I believe we've talked about in another episode or maybe a couple times about gratitude and practicing gratitude, something all of us should do more. I mean, I've read books where say you should try to do it once a day, morning or night or whatever works for you. It's never a bad thing. You write it down. You can just say it aloud. You can just think it. Um, just know that, like, kind of go back to the point two. Well, the first 2 points of it, it doesn't necessarily speak to you. Um, it's just not everybody's going to be your match. You can't have perfect matches every time. It's just not how it works. So not every job is going to be your job. Not every friend's going to be your friend. Friends come and go. Relationships come and go, and jobs come and go. That's just life. So
Yep. Yeah, doesn't define you. Doesn't say anything about you. Don't take it personal. And that's another thing, Shane. If you know your self-worth, and if you have a high self-esteem, then no rejection is gonna face you. You know who you are. You're grounded, and rejections are like nothing to you. You just flick them away, and you keep on going. And these are like the most confident men or women out there. They go through rejections like like it's nothing, and they
mm-hmm.
and they don't stop. They keep going. I think that's what defines success in any area of life, not just in relationships, but as Shane was talking about, on a job. Whenever you're um, dealing with difficulties, because life is challenging in itself. So if we if we want to succeed at life, we need to develop these um, like thick skin in a way, and
Hmm.
be okay with, with life rejecting us sometimes, and shutting those doors on us. But we keep on knocking, we keep on going.
Yeah, and I know I've talked about this before in a previous episode where the way I try to frame it now, it's not even a reframe. It is true. It's just you have to sometimes think about it. You have to remind yourself, I should say, that let's say someone rejects you, whether it's in person or on a dating app or even after a first date, maybe even after 7 dates. That means that they weren't for you, and they're doing you in a way. They're doing you a favor because if you're really into them and they're not that into you, you're going to keep wasting your time and their time, and you might get more invested. It's going to hurt more, you know, financially. It'll cost you more. It's if it's really not meant to be, the sooner it ends, the better. So look at it that way, especially if it's like right early on, just a few minutes or a simple conversation or even just one date. It's like, so think about it that way. And in my experience, when I've dated women in a serious way and like it's gotten turned into relationships, it's always been so easy, and things just they fall into place so naturally. So if things are bumpy right off the bat, that might not be a good sign. If someone's playing games, don't put up with that, guys. And gals, just move on. You know, you're better than that. You deserve better than that. So
Yep. Have boundaries and know your worth.
yes, we say that a lot on this podcast, but it's just worth saying because it's so important. And both Dan and I still need to, I need to set boundaries sometimes, better boundaries sometimes. And not only do you have to set a boundary, you have to enforce that boundary. It's a two-step process. I was thinking about that today. I was taking a walk today, and I was like, it's not just setting the boundary. You have to really, really guard that boundary too. So
Yeah,
draw the line, guard.
yeah. Just recently, I was telling Shane how, I've been like having a lot of conversations with the opposite sex, and if I feel that the other person is not really cooperating and not as interested, not as excited to be in the conversation with me, then I leave. I excuse myself, and I'm like, okay, have a nice day. I don't even explain anything. All I do is say that because I can tell that she's not reciprocating. So you see, this is also part of having boundaries. I know the boundary that okay, I don't have to push anymore, and it's okay that she doesn't like me back. And that's fine because I like myself, and I know that there is other people out there that will be happy to meet me and be more interested in getting to know me. So, whereas in the past, I would take it personal, and I would try to push and, like double up on the questions and try to be more funny or try to come up with jokes or tell them about, all my wins, my successes and all that to, just trying to impress, the other person. But now every time I, come across something like this, I know that it's okay to move on. And I do.
I have a quick kind of, I guess, semi-vulnerable story, or more embarrassing, I guess. This was a few years ago. I met this woman on Bumble. We went on our first date. Went pretty well. It actually ended we made out at the end and we had a good time. It was like a 3 hour date. And we had drinks and we went out to a second place for like kind of like a late night snack. And I thought it went really well. And we were texting the next day a little bit. And then, a few days later, and I asked her out again, and she was kind of blowing me off a little bit or kind of being wishy washy. And eventually got to a point where she finally said, I'm just, whatever she said, I'm too busy, I'm not interested or whatever. And I did kind of what Daniel just said. I pushed harder and I kind of tried to sell myself and try to, but, blah, blah, blah. And this was over text. And then she actually said, you know, why would you want to go out with someone who doesn't want to go out with you? And when a guy does this to me, it actually turns me off more. And looking back on it now, I was in the moment, I was not thinking clearly, obviously. And it was just one day with this woman. But looking back at it now, I'm like, wow, I got to do better from that. So learn better from that. Um,
Yeah.
and that actually brings us to our fourth point of try to just learn from these experiences, learn from your mistakes.
Mhm.
It could be, I'll admit it could be a little confusing, at least for me, because yeah, you're being rejected on one level, on some level it's not personal to you, but at the same time it is, you still you, the common denominator, so it is somewhat about you as well. So you have to kind of discern, if you keep getting the same thing happening over and over again, then that's a pattern. You do have to look at that and see if you're doing something wrong, if you're coming on too strong, or if you're being too nice, or if you're like a male, for example, if you're too creepy, or too sexual too early with women, because that's not a good thing typically, at least in most situations. Um, and women, like if you keep getting rejected, I mean, try to look maybe what you're doing or not doing, um, with just different things. I mean, look for those patterns, and then try to find people that you trust that would actually give you honest feedback about whatever it might be. Um, so, Daniel, what do you think or about learning from our experiences?
Yeah, learn to know that if it's not working, like whatever you're doing, then it's because you're not being real, you know. You're
Yeah,
not being honest. So if because why would you want to match with someone that doesn't like you for who you really are? So make sure that in all these interactions, conversations, when dating, you are you. Like this is your best you, not just any you. It has to be your best you, right? So as long as you're, dressed properly, and and you are actually interested in the other person, and you want to really get to know them, and you look nice, then if that person is not liking you back, then that's their problem. It has nothing to do with you. So learn to know whether you're being real and authentic, because if you're not, then that if you're not, then no matter how hard you try to find that other person, you're not gonna find the right one. Because, and even if you did, you would find somebody that's attracted to somebody that you're not really who you are. Is just a, like a pretend version of you. So why would you want somebody that wants you for, for your money or for your looks, right? You want, this is just my opinion. If you want to be in a relationship with someone, you want someone that wants you for who you are, whether you look nice, whether you have money or not. That person likes you for you. And so I think that's something important we need to learn how to do. Learning how to be authentic, learning how to, show ourselves as we really are. And yeah, I think it's not easy, because a lot of us have been, taught to, you know, uh, I mean, like the media and, television, they sell us an idea of who we should be, and that makes really hard for us to be ourselves. So yeah, I don't know if I'm making sense here. I think I'm all over the place. I went on a rant, but yeah. So just learn to be you first before you can actually find somebody that's gonna like you, for who you are. Because if you don't know who you are, then how do you even want to, find that person? Um, in order to, I mean, if that person is rejecting you, you know, if you're being who you are and if you're being authentic and the other person rejects you, then that's fine, you know, because you're being true to yourself. So it's okay, you know. So that's the only way you can take rejection and really move forward. Um, so I think that's my advice: just learn to be yourself, and then the rejection won't sting as much.
Yeah, we talked about that as well. Authenticity is sexy for both men and women.
Mm.
We all want to be our true selves, and I want to be on a date with a woman who is being her true self, not some, I don't know, trying to either impress me or just being some fake person. That's not sexy to anybody, I don't think. So, but yeah, I think this point though is kind of speaks for itself. Learn from your mistakes. I mean, we all try to do that, but it's something that you kind of just know. You, like I said, look for those patterns. That's my advice. Look for the patterns. If you keep saying the same thing, either something is wrong or just try something new next time. You know, whether it's a first date, talking to somebody, um, in your next relationship. I mean, look at that core stuff. You know,
Yeah,
um,
try something new that displays your best self, right?
yes,
It has to be authentic though. Don't just put on a, on a display of, trying to be somebody you're not. Like, you might even come across as a try hard, just because you're putting on a, on a character.
and by the way, as a tip, this is more for the men out there, but it goes for women as well. Only give compliments when they're 100% authentic and genuine. Don't give compliments because you feel you need to, or to manipulate or get someone to like you. If you really like someone's outfit or you think they're cute or whatever, say that. That's totally okay to say that. Just don't make it come from a genuine place. Just being genuine, like I said, it's a great quality to have. It's never going to hurt you really. So, um, all right, we can get into our fifth and final point here, everybody. It's we've also talked about this before, and again, it kind of goes without saying, but it's a good reminder, especially nowadays, like right now I mean, it's a few years after pandemic, but right now it's kind of winter time, at least in the United States, and it's holiday time, and this can be just a hard time for some people, but especially if there's like rejection involved. Make sure you have a good support system, family, friends, mentors, I don't know, colleagues, people you look up to, maybe a therapist, just things that people you can rely on and lean on when you really need to, because we all need someone sometimes. No one is impervious of that. And yes,
Yeah.
man, that includes us. We need people too sometimes. So
Yep.
I really respect women because they're really good at their support systems and connections and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, that this is really important, Shane. I feel like it all goes back to the personal development or self-development. If we have, if we know our worth, like we've mentioned already, and if we also have people that are like-minded individuals around us, then we shouldn't struggle, with rejection as much, because we know our circle. We have, you know, people that support us, people that are, always talking to us. Yeah, they are friends, and if these people like us, then that means, we're doing something right. Like your subconscious knows, okay, I mean, I have a few friends, and these friends already like me for who I am. So why would, like, somebody's rejection bother me? I have, I already have friends that like me. So subconsciously, that you're likable because you have this group of people behind your back, you know? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, and and if you don't have these people, then you need to look for it. Reach out to, to meetup groups. There's so many groups out there that where you'll find people that have the same interests. Um, so you have to be intentional, right? It's not easy, especially if you consider yourself introverted. Then I think it can be a little challenging. But see, you have to break out of these um, concepts of your personality, of who you are. Because if you're thinking, oh, I don't have anyone, and people don't like me, then you are restricted. And so you need to break out of that belief and start reaching out for support systems or people that will help you have that community and create that community.
Mhm. And there's tons of ways to find that. You can find it like if through a place of worship, friends, meetup, just a simple Google search, volunteering. There's support circles for both men and women. There's plenty of therapists you can find out there. Hopefully, you have a good support system of family and friends already, and you can just add to that. Um, it's never. It's good to have. It's always good to try to make more friends, because friends are just great. Um, think of your support system like a safety net. Picture like you're doing like a tightrope. Walking a tightrope it can be scary, it can be dangerous, like just like a relationship, just like dating, just like anything in life. Your career, I guess. Sometimes things happen like a wind, or you lose your balance, and you might fall, and you need that support system. I've had to rely on my support system more than a few times after bad breakups or tough breakups, or just rough periods where things have a lot of doubt, a lot of despair, whatever it might be. And they've helped me through it. And it goes both ways. And then I've helped friends through their tough times. It goes back and forth. It's give and take. Me and Daniel, we support each other. Like we call each other out on our BS. We coach each other. We, like we've said, we're in this right with you. We're no different than anybody else listening to this podcast. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I said community. It doesn't have to be a community because I made it sound like there is a lot of people that need to be part of your, band of
But
brothers
it
or
can be.
group, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, but I think what Shane mentioned is important. It could be one person, it could be two people only, as long as they are close to you and they are, helping you and calling you out on your BS. Like
Mm-hmm.
holding you accountable, basically. As long as you are holding each other accountable, then you're good, and you have people to talk to, right? As human beings, we're such social creatures. So I think a lot of times we forget that we need this connection with others, right? It doesn't have to be the opposite sex. It actually is more important as a man to connect with other men. And like Shane was
Yes.
also talking about, women have this figured out. They in a way have a leg
They
up
usually have.
on us, right? Because they already know, where to go to when shit hits the fan for them.
Yeah, and on that note, I was going to mention for the men listening, if you don't have maybe a lot of male friends, or you're looking for more male friends, or like a good support system for men in pretty much all major cities and maybe even smaller cities, there's got to be something. Just look for it, Google it, go to Meetup, go to Facebook. I promise you there should be something. And if not, start your own. That's what I did. I have a men's group where I live with a friend of mine. Um, and we have a good group of great guys. And I've actually heard, I've actually been complimented a few times by women that they love hearing that there's a support group for men, both socially, but also just kind of what we're talking about here, like emotionally and mentally, just supporting men in whatever they need for the good and the bad and the ugly. And I'm sure there's tons of women's support groups as well for ladies on all kinds of platforms. And if nothing else, search on Facebook. Maybe there's stuff out there for people. So if you're really needing, and there might even like you can maybe even call like a crisis hotline. They might have information for you as well. There are things out there. So if you're feeling like, well, where do I start, or you're just feeling in some despair, there are some ways to find people to support you. And hopefully, like I said, you can build up that circle or rely on your main circle or both. So yeah, everybody, we hope this helped talking about rejection. Like I said, this is a big topic. We all have to deal with it. It sucks. I know. I mean, there's no way to put it other ways. It can just suck sometimes, but we have to just deal with it. So I hope these 5 tips we talked about helped. Daniel, any final?
Yes, sir. You already know. Ultimately, guys, nobody can reject you but yourself. So
There you go.
So just keep that in mind.
Right. Yeah. So you can find us anywhere you get your podcast. You can find us on YouTube. And we have these full-length videos, and we have shorter videos on there. And we also have Instagram and TikTok for the shorter videos. So just search for Dating for Late Bloomers. And we will see you next time, guys.
Peace.